Hello everyone, I'm the French Monk and welcome back to Shokuho, Bannerlord's upcoming overhaul mod in which the developers seek to recreate a historically accurate environment of Feudal Japan. My previous and first video on this mod was met with a lot of praise and attention by you guys, so much so that it actually became my most popular video on the channel, dethroning the others in just a short period of time. And let me tell you, that doesn't happen a lot on this channel, for a video to rise in the ranks of popularity and especially in such a short amount of time. So I do want to take this opportunity to thank you all very much for that. Now, in response to that video, many of you requested for me to post another update, and considering it's been a few months since our introduction to Shokuho, and since you guys were blown away by this project, just as I was when I first found out about it, I thought it was about time to provide you with said update. So, here we are, and since there's actually quite a bit to cover, I suggest that without further ado, we'll head right into the video. Bannerlord Shokuho mod will cover the Sengoku Jidai, the Warring States era of Japan. To situate us more specifically in time, the year is 1568, and we are experiencing events during the far aftermath of the disastrous Onin War and the infighting of feuding clans all across Japan, which has left the lands open and vulnerable for all rungs of society. From Uesugi Kenshin, who was one of the most powerful daimyo of the Sengoku period, remembered for his talent and skills as a military leader on the field of battle, right down to the common mobs, which have flocked to the banners of the Ikoiki, a rebellious movement opposing the rules of the daimyo. Meanwhile, Oda Nobunaga is marching on Kyoto, threatening the shogunate and bringing the Ashikaga to its knees. And like I mentioned in the previous video, if you thought to yourself, well, this sounds like chaos, we're not done yet. You also have the Portuguese Nanban spreading Christianity and bringing new technologies to the market, such as matchlock firearms and galleon-style shipbuilding. For those a bit confused about what Nanban means, the Nanban trade was actually a period in the history of Japan which lasted from the moment Europeans arrived in 1543 to the first seclusion edicts of isolationism in 1614. Nanban is a Japanese word and means southern barbarian, a word used to designate people from Southeast Asia centuries before the arrival of the first Europeans. Now I'm thrilled to bring to you the latest updates on this exciting mod. In July, the developers provided us with a 4-hour gameplay stream, sharing with us the progress they made on their mod, from the innovative mechanics to the breathtaking environments. This stream took place on Discord, and the quality of it isn't the best, I know, but we'll have to make use with what we got. There are some quality screenshots which I'll edit in between and which you'll also be able to find on the modding team's Discord server. The developers answered quite a few questions during this stream, so I've tried to pick out the most frequently asked among them, and I incorporated their response in this update video as I go from topic to topic. In my previous video we already saw some sneak peeks of the campaign map, and what struck me was the level of detail they put into it. At least it looks like the map is very detailed in terms of the landscape, the rivers, the colors, and they're really making it feel like you're in 16th century Japan. It's very immersive to say the least. Now during the stream, the developers explained how they approached the campaign map. They started out with the smaller islands on the west, building it piece by piece so that if there are any issues they come across, they don't have to change it for everything. From what I gathered from other YouTubers' videos I looked up, the campaign map is estimated to be 3 or 4 times bigger than the vanilla Bannerlord campaign map. So in terms of scale, that is massive, and that for sure comes with more risks. And I think therefore the way the developers tackled this issue, the planning, coordination and overall organization wise, it makes a lot of sense in order to avoid pure chaos later down the line when they do happen to run into problems, so that they don't have to fix or change large chunks of Japan. And the plan is to include a lot of clans and factions, so they are doing them one at a time, and they use each faction and each area as a foundation which they then apply to the others as they progress. Obviously, this will take time. For those that keep asking me about a possible release date, there's still a lot of work to be done, and the reality is that the team is likely not going to release the project as anything less than complete. In other words, there won't be anything missing when it's launched, though it is possible that after its release there may be some additional updates. As an added note, for those expecting pre-planned events to happen later down the line during the campaign, one of the developers answered in the Shokuho Discord server that the campaign and timeline will be like when you play a vanilla Bannerlord campaign. Now when we come to the battle maps, all of these are going to be completely custom made, and I've said this quite a lot in some of my previous videos on Bannerlord mods, but they look really good, they look stunning. It just feels like it's not even Bannerlord anymore, and it could be its own game. It's very easy to immerse yourself in a world when the developers spend so much time on all of these little details, the colors, the maps, really making it feel like you've traveled back in time to feudal Japan. Now we also got a glimpse of some of the soldiers here, and I just want to mention by the way that this is all a work in progress. Now just look at the variety of the troops here. We got infantry, we got ranged troops, we got cavalry, and the ones you see here, they actually reflect the strengths of the troops in that region. And I believe in this case it's the south of Japan. Because of the trade, they have a lot of gunpowder weapons also for their cavalry. And each region in Japan will have its own strength or skill focus from what I understand. So you could have a region where there are really good archers, essentially marksmen, and the Takeda clan for example will have better cavalry, and we'll see things like that throughout the mod. This is how the modders want to balance out the different troop trees. And so here we notice on the map a duel location. Now the duel scenes are going to be scattered around the map, similar to the bandit hideouts. They will have randomly generated guys at these locations for you to fight against. Each one will have a different level of difficulty. Make sure you are ready for the duel before entering into one, because the developers did mention that these fights can get punishing, especially if you are unprepared, but they can also be very easy to beat. That is just depending on the level that you're thrown at. From what I understand, it is random by design. Next to that, there are also duelists whom were made specifically as part of a quest. So this means that they will not show up randomly, they are actually tied to a quest, and for this purpose they have designed very unique characters for you to fight against, and each of them has their own backstory. In these fights they will be unlike any of the other duels you'll encounter. They are also working on a custom cinematic which should be giving you multiple camera angles for each fight. As an added note, the duel doesn't start unless you move for the lower level fights, and each fight, as mentioned, is randomly generated, and this affects the level of aggressiveness. So you could encounter a very aggressive and skillful duelist, and they will come at you like right off the bat, whilst lower level duelists, they may take a more defensive posture, and they will wait for you to make the first move. So this is actually pretty cool because it makes for dynamic fights. It also adds this sort of personality to your opponents, like you got the veteran fighters who obviously they know what they're doing and they will strike swift and aggressively and their attacks will be measured, whilst inexperienced fighters they will be more hesitant and again easier to deal with. We weren't able to see a lot of the animation work they're doing in terms of swordplay. They are trying to do all of that in one big sweep, I guess. They did mention it's very hard to tell what each animation should look like. Slicing, blocking, and all of those kind of things, and they don't know yet what the animation that is going to match those particular moves in the fight is going to look like yet. So what I gather from this is that they're working on animations that they're going to replace the vanilla ones with, so that they are more authentic to the setting, the time, and the place we're in, which is feudal Japan in the 16th century, and this will again help to further immerse the player into this world, so that is pretty cool stuff to look forward to. Talk about immersion, they also mentioned there will be some changes to the native voices. They were looking to get a Japanese voice actor to try out things screaming battles cries and such as the likes. Then there's the civilian clothing, which is along with the military clothing pretty important as well if you want to build further on immersion. Seeing units and characters wear the proper outfit in the right setting is very important. And I agree with Jackyfish in his coverage of the gameplay stream, where it's easily put to the side, like the we'll get to those kind of things when we get to it argument, or the people don't go into towns that often anyway, so we'll focus less on those kind of things kind of argument. So it becomes like something that's easily looked over or considered not as essential in a game or mod that is primarily focused on the military aspect, like fighting bandits, raising and leading armies, sieging and conquering towns, and have these big clashes between multiple armies. So it's pretty refreshing and nice to see a team that puts a lot of work into these aspects and details of the world. Another example of a really cool mechanic is the effect of a brazier. So the brazier is a metal container with hot coals in it. The developers completely changed siege weapons, like the palisades, siege braziers, and each of those does something different. So as for the brazier, The way it works, you can build those when you are a defender or an attacker, and any troops within a certain radius of this brazier, they will automatically have fire arrows. We actually saw some footage of the effect of fire arrows during nighttime in my first video on this mod, and it just looks epic. Each object in the scene, like siege towers, tate shields, like this one, they're all burnable from what I understand, so after a fire arrow hits them, they will start to take fire damage. The more fire arrows, the more damage. Eventually they will catch on fire and they will burn down. So this goes for a lot of assets in the scenes, and on boats too. Now the objects that catch fire, they will have a lot more health in the siege scene, so what you just saw is the testing environment. So as you go through with a siege, as these structures have a lot more health, you will actually be able to see them go through different stages of destruction. This next topic on the list is something I'm really excited about, and that is of course Naval Combat. The developers actually show us ship models that are playable, drivable and fightable. How cool is that? You will be able to fight on the decks of these ships when being boarded, or when you are the one boarding. For some of the ships there are cannons on board which you will be able to use, and even more impressive, the AI troops will be able to use them as well, so they're not just there for decoration. Now the cannons need multiple guys, a crew essentially, to run them efficiently, so you need someone to rotate, fire and load it. The AI can do all of that. Now if you happen to be alone on a cannon, you're going to have to fill all those roles in yourself, and it will take a lot longer of course. I think, I'm not sure of this, but I heard some plans of having multiple ships in battle, and you will actually be able to command them like you do the sections of an army in a normal Bannerlord battle, which honestly sounds insane and ridiculously good if that were to be the case and planned, and if they were able to execute that. So this topic was actually further touched upon during the gameplay stream by the developers, where you will not only be able to command your own ship, but control the other ships in your fleet. As an added note, you will be able to ferry between nearby ports for money without needing a navy. So if you don't have a ship, then you can still go to ports and travel across the sea to other islands. You are going to have to spend money though. I think this is fair, and it requires the player to keep an eye on their spending. And next to that, you also have your typical expenses, the ones that Bannerlord offers, such as the wage system and provisions for your army, and party members to keep the army cohesion. I believe, just like in the Gekokujo mod for Warband, this mod also adds a bit more depth to the vanilla Bannerlord spending by not only upgrading troops, but outfitting your army, which then adds another cost to the player, kind of forcing you to be more in tune with your wealth, your income and your expenses. So talking about features and upgrading troops, these companions over here on horseback, for example, are part of the officer promotion feature. So after a battle, if you enter your camp, you actually get an option to promote some units based on their experience. And these promoted units become companions, and each of them will have their own unique backstory, skills, and village of origin. How cool is that? They also included post-battle locations on the campaign map, so the way these work remind me of Total War, more specifically Rome Total War, where when you fought a major battle, or you had like a Pyrrhic victory, at the end of that battle, the game would mark that specific battle on the campaign map, the sides that fought against each other, who won and when it took place. This was one of my favorite things about Total War back in the day, where when you had spent some time into your campaign, you'd actually be able to look back at those markers across the map, and it gives you like this sense of accomplishment as a conqueror, or for you to relive memories like, oh yeah, that's where I fought that insane battle against the Gauls and such. And so for Shokuho, after major battles with lots of casualties, generally at 500 v 500 minimum, these post-battle locations will spawn on the campaign map, and you can actually enter these locations. Now sadly, these locations only spawn when the AI fights major battles against each other, so it doesn't happen when you take part in a battle yourself, as you naturally get some loot automatically after you won your battle. What is pretty interesting about these locations is that they are enterable, and they will have lootable positions within them, as well as waves of looters that you will have to fight against, because naturally there will be looters after a big battle, scavenging whatever is left of value. These locations are a work in progress, so they didn't show it on the stream, but honestly this sounds really cool, and it just adds a bit of depth to the gameplay and immersion. If you're by yourself, if you don't have an army yet, or you just want to be a lone wolf, you can use these locations to your benefit. Just be aware of the risk of fellow looters hanging about though. In terms of immersion, it's nice seeing a marker on the campaign map of where a major battle took place. It gives you this feeling of the world I'm in is alive. Obviously not the poor souls left behind at these locations, but in terms of events are taking place, clans are in conflict with one another and they are fighting it out and so on. You may notice the banners on the campaign map here, a nice little detail. These will change colors to match the teams that took part in that specific battle. So, this is where I'll have to leave it for this particular video. Overall, I'm really impressed with the amount of work the developers have done. The environment looks gorgeous. The colors, the trees, the biomes, the attention to specific details adding to the overall immersion is just insane. The scale of the project is massive, and it is really cool to see the team behind it being this professional, organized, and ambitious. I'm really interested to see how this mod will develop in the upcoming weeks and months, and if you are too and you want to know more about Shokuho or at least get information on a more rapid basis, I suggest you go check out their Discord server, the link to which is in the description down below. And if you thought this video was interesting, helpful or enjoyable to watch, leaving a like is always appreciated. I really like covering video games that tackle or are based on historical events, so yeah, for more gameplay and update videos, and hopefully in the future I'll be able to add movie reviews to that list, we'll have to see, but yeah, if these are topics you like as well, don't forget to subscribe for more. You can always unsubscribe at a later moment. Last but not least, you are welcome to suggest any other mods and or games I should cover in the comment section down below. And that having said, I hope to see you in the next video. Take care everyone.